I decided to hold the mic like the trendy people do, so maybe I can get more than 20 views on a video. That would be awesome. But without further ado, let's get to talking about how you can do better in the studio, or even get in the studio. The first step is getting in the studio, okay? Find your friend that does in-home recording. Find somebody who's looking for a guitar player or doesn't have the money to pay a guitar player, or whatever instrument that you play, and go get in the studio. Learn. The best way to learn is by doing it. Okay, you can listen to idiots on the internet like myself try to warn you about the things that you are inevitably going to do anyway, but get in the studio for yourself. That's the best way to start studio recording. Step number 2, don't expect to make $1 million being a studio player. Musicians are broke in general, especially ones that are trying to make records. So help somebody out when you can. Be a nice person, provide your service to them. And if you're new to this, provide your service for what it's worth, which at the point of beginning is free. The studio musicians that are making a living doing it are making a living because they are good at it. And you too can be good at it. But first of all, you have to pay your dues. The third point, and probably the most important point, is studio etiquette. You have to be able to act like somebody once the red light turns on and there are people there, there is money being spent that is not yours. You have to learn studio etiquette. Unless you want to be labeled an idiot, you need to pay attention right here. When you go into the studio, you need to have a few things on your mind. Number 1, we are spending somebody else's money to make this record, so I need to do my very best to make my job seamless and as fast as possible. Okay, number 2, you need to keep in mind, the studio is not the spot for me to practice my scales. I need to know my scales going into the studio. Number 3, if you're reading tabs in the studio, just don't go. Now in the studio, we have these things called charts. What is a chart? Okay, a chart will tell you what chord to play in the song. So for instance, if a song is a 1-4-5 in G, it means it's a G, a C, and a D. It's not rocket science. You just have to know a little bit of music theory. It's music theory for dummies, okay? So know what's called the Nashville number system. The Nashville number system will save your life in the studio. And whenever I say you need to know it, I'm not talking about know it like you know the intro to Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child of Mine. I'm talking you need to know it like it's the Bible. Hopefully the drummer on the session is good enough to play with a click, because if not, you are going to waste so much time. Now, an argument that you might hear, well, Led Zeppelin didn't play with a click. They were Led Zeppelin. You are in your mom's basement reading tabs on Ultimate Guitar. Chill with all that, okay? This is a ranting video, I know, but I'm ranting because I'm trying to get views here, because starving artists gotta eat, man. Streamline your rig, please. You are not Eddie Van Halen. Nobody wants to hear your cranked Marshall in their mom's basement recording studio, or in their recording studio that's in the middle of the town with Pilates going on next door, okay? No need for a plexi. We have so many amp models and things of that nature that can get that sound, or whatever. You don't have to crank your tube amp to sound cool. It's an ego thing. And I am guilty of it myself. I want to play through a tube amp if I'm playing in the studio. But guess what? If somebody says, oh man, that's just not what we do here, we're gonna plug you into this guitar plugin, I'm gonna be like, okay, that's it. No rebuttal. Okay, so if they're going to give me a first option to play through a tube amp, yes, I want to play through a tube amp in stereo with a real Echoplex, using only pre-1985 EL84 tubes or EL34 tubes if I'm playing my plexi head. Yes, I want all of the goodness, all the tone. But realistically, him plugging me into the computer is going to give him more control to make me sound better, okay? The pop country artist that you're doing guitar for is not going to want an eruption on their album. I'm sorry. Some people, you can't just drill it through their skull once. You have to do it twice. Play free gigs. Go to the studio. Think of it as an opportunity to get your performance on a record. Okay, that's the way you get studio gigs. Then they start building up. Another reiteration: the studio is not grounds for you to noodle. Noodle at home. Noodle before the red light goes on. Please, 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 if you ever want to get any type of callback to do another session, don't noodle. Okay, noodling is the devil in the studio. That is the quickest way to make an engineer hate your guts, is to noodle. And what is noodling? Playing when it's not your turn to play. It's not that hard. Really, studio etiquette can be summed down into how kindergartners are expected to act in a classroom. Just don't be obnoxious. But on the flip side, if you don't know these things going in, you won't know any better. And I've been there. I've looked like an idiot in a professional recording studio, and regretfully, but rightfully so, I will probably never get a call back from them. There are a ton of Eddie Van Halens and not very many Steve Lukather's at all. Why is that important? The reason why that's important is because Steve Lukather played on probably 3 to 4 times the records that Eddie Van Halen played on. And not just with Toto, but with every other artist. Every artist wanted to use him. Why? Because he knew when to play and where to play and what to play. I'm a steel guitar player, and even the steel guitar shouldn't be everywhere. You have to know when not to play. Any studio legend that you ever meet, I am grateful to have met a bunch of them, will tell you, I got to play because I knew when to play, what to play, and where to play. Okay? So it's really a feel thing, but it's a taste thing. You have to have the taste to be a studio musician. And that is a thing that comes with time. You need to pay your fair share of dues before you understand when and where to play. I was the sole lead instrument 90% of the time in a band that I was in from high school to my early 20s, and that built an extremely bad habit, which was overplaying everywhere, every time, on everything. I loved Eddie Van Halen, and you should listen to Van Halen. You should love Eddie Van Halen too, because he was, in my opinion, the greatest guitar player ever. But he was Eddie Van Halen, and I'm not. And it took me a long time to realize that. Oftentimes, not playing is better than playing. Let the music breathe. If you would like to listen to what music that breathes sounds like, listen to anything that was cut in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Listen to the early A-Team Nashville stuff. It is very organized, it is straightforward, and nobody ever plays on top of each other. And that's still the way it is in Nashville. That's still the way they expect it to be. Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Those guys in the early recording studios know the Grady Martins, Pete Drake, Lloyd Green, Buddy Emmons, and I could go on and on. They knew when to play and when not to play. But the secret factor that those artists had were that they understood when to absolutely throw the heat on. Okay, Lloyd Green could go from 0 to 100 real quick. Why? Because he would practice and practice and practice and practice and put himself in situations mentally that whenever he got any song, there was a lick for that song. So starting to talk about pedal steel is a perfect segue into my next point. Point number, I don't know. I'm running out of points. I'm about to just start rambling. Make yourself versatile. Now, when I say that, I don't mean just know when not to play and when to play. I am saying be able to play any type of music, any genre, as long as it falls in your musical prowess. Now, personally, I'm not going to take a jazz gig. If somebody calls me and says, yeah, I need some pedal steel jazz, I'm going to say, well, you need to call Jack Phillips, or you need to call one of these hotshot guys that can play that stuff, because it's not me. I'm an E9 guy through and through. Being a chameleon, or being versatile, as I said earlier, really boils down to, can you play something that makes the song better? So in my instance, I get to play on a lot of newer style country, and people who are kind of doing the red dirt Appalachian thing. That's kind of been my wheelhouse that I've been in the studio. And I have just adapted and learned how to throw things that I like from the session players and the live steel players that I love into this modern music. I figured out a way to make it fit, and therefore I've gotten a lot of calls. But you can do that too. It's really not that hard. I'm not a rocket scientist, and I'm not really even that accomplished of a steel player, but I can adjust to the situation in the studio, which has allowed me a lot of gigs that I would have otherwise not got. Self-reflection. Ask yourself, what do I bring to the studio? Am I valuable, or am I just good at one specific thing? If you're good at one specific thing, you're going to get a lot less gigs than if you can do a lot of things pretty good. So for instance, whenever I get a call, somebody says, well, what all can you play? I say, well, I can play E9 pedal steel. I can play, a little bit of slide guitar. I can play guitar on anything. I can play dobro. And generally, that's a broad enough spectrum to get a gig, right? But whenever I was just a guitar player, I got literally no gigs, okay? Because guitar players, unfortunately, there's a billion of you. We got children watching this program, boy.